How's it going, everyone? Jeff Johnson here from the Gazette. We're here to talk prep football with my cohorts, Jeff Linder and K.J. Pilcher, and perhaps Hercules Pilcher. We're not quite sure if he's going to
Could pop
jump in
now.
here with us. He probably will have the best analysis of all of us. So, boys, how's it going?
Good.
Good.
Feel free to bark if you want to. Woof, woof. We're good. We'll talk a little bit about the upcoming schedule and some other things here as we go along. Kind of wanted to start with a little bit of breaking news, I guess. The IHSAA apparently has declared a couple of players ineligible to play all of a sudden, even though they've played the first 4 games of the season. Out-of-state kids that transferred from out-of-state to come in and play fall football. And that includes Mark Gorbatenko, a senior lineman at Clear Creek and Manna, and TJ Rubley, the quarterback at West Des Moines Valley. Currently, the IHSAA has said they are both now ineligible to complete for I guess for not truly establishing residence here. And we're still waiting on the Arlen Bruce case at Ankeny as well. That's gotten into a big court fight, I guess, and the wide receiver and future Iowa Hawkeye is still not eligible to play at Ankeny. Thoughts, guys?
Well, if I'm sure if they're not following the letter of the law, then it's probably the way it should be. I don't imagine that the IHSAA is making stuff up. I'm sure they've got better things they'd rather be doing than sifting through all of this.
Now, apparently, go ahead, KJ.
Well, my only question is why were they allowed or deemed eligible to begin with if these things weren't done properly from the start, or if their vetting process or their investigation process wasn't thorough to begin with? That's on the association.
True.
But when it comes down to it, you know what? If you don't do what you're supposed to do, you don't play. I know there are so many people that are, I don't know, in the players' corners for doing this and for the families. But if you don't do what you need to do, then there is no issue as far as I'm concerned. If it calls for you to move your entire family up, establish a residence right here, then so be it. I mean, the purpose of everything, right, is to prevent them coming for a season and then taking off, right? That's what the transfer situation is about, whether you're going, anywhere. Am I wrong on that?
No, you're right. You're absolutely right.
Prevent hijinks from somebody deciding to, hey, I'm going to go and play basketball at Linmar, after playing football at Kennedy, and hopping from school to school and doing stuff like that, or playing baseball at Washington and then playing football at, Prairie, what have you. I don't see what's hard to kind of grasp about that, and especially in this situation where it's apparent, one word, not a parent, but apparent that they're moving here to play football, right? There's no ifs, ands, or buts about it. They're
Right.
not moving and wanting to play football. They are moving to play football because they're the state that they were in they're not playing football in the fall. All right? So, yeah, you have to jump through the hoops.
And really, on the other hand, what's to keep these kids from just saying, hey, I'm still going to play if we have to forfeit a regular season football game or 7, so what? We're in the playoffs anyway, then I'll just sit out in the playoffs.
Well,
It doesn't make it right, but
right.
Why wouldn't they do it?
According to our friends at the Des Moines Register, Rubley's case is that the family still owns a home in Colorado, and that the father, former Davenport West All-Stater quarterback, had not resigned from his position as head coach in, I believe it's Highlands Ranch, Denver suburb, until late last week. So
sounds cut and dried to me.
Yeah. So we'll see.
Can I add? This is just my ignorance about who's eligible and who's not. There is a D-back. I mean, I think one of the first people that we heard that would do this was maybe a defensive back from California that transferred to Valley. I believe he had a family member that was going to go to Iowa State anyway. So the whole family moved here. Is he eligible?
Boy, I don't know.
I'm not too familiar with that.
Because I haven't heard anything about him unless I have the names or people mixed up. But it sounds like they've done it properly. That they've gone through all the steps to do it. And again, that's if I have the right, if I'm thinking of the right cases and stuff. But I thought there was a DB.
If you're going to do it, then just do it right. Just pack your family up, move over here, play your football, get your house, and do it. If you can't do it, then don't do it. Just stay home and don't play. Back in whatever state that's not playing. Or, heck, they might be playing before the season's over anyway, or they might be playing in the spring. I don't know. If you can't do it right, then just don't do it.
Yeah.
We'll
get called boomer and everything else for thinking this way, but
I guess my 2 cents, and it's probably actually only worth a cent and a half. I don't know if you let one become eligible. To me, then you got to let them all become eligible. That's just my opinion. The whole selection process. I mean, they don't have the IHSAA. They don't have anybody that can to go around and truly investigate this and figure out everything. Oh, okay, yeah, they actually do have a house here. Really, you think Tom Keating or Todd Thar was going around and knocking on doors and saying, "Do you really live here?" Things like that. So that just, it seems fallacy to me. So
don't they have to present like
documentation? Okay.
Yeah. I think. I mean, I don't know. This is just kind of a new area,
New frontier. And and like I said, I mean, you let these kids in, and yet you don't, and I know that it's probably not a fair comparison, but you don't let the Des Moines public kids play. You don't let the Iowa City public kids play. Who the hell are you serving here? You're going to let kids move in from out of state and become immediately eligible, yet you're not going to, because of a political thing, you're not going to let these other kids from your state that have been here, presumably most of them their entire lives. So that's the other part of it. But I don't know, boys. It's a can of worms. And in the middle of the season, after you let a couple kids play 4 games, and now all of a sudden you're not letting them. I don't know.
Yeah.
I don't know.
Well, Iowa City's back on the field next week, right?
Yeah. Let's talk about that. Some positivity here.
Well, hey, before we do that,
Yeah.
can we just touch on one more thing since we mentioned the Des Moines Public Schools and this whole transfer thing, and then we can get to the positive stuff.
Sure.
Did I see that now there's becoming a defection from the Des Moines public schools to the suburban schools. Did I see that right?
They can
They're
transfer to
losing
Dowling right
athletes?
away.
Right. But I mean, from what I understand, they're going out to the suburbs now, and it's starting to deplete those public schools depth already.
And it's not
So
just football.
This whole thing between the Board of Education or the Department of Education and Des Moines Public Schools. I mean, this is going to have a lasting effect if something isn't done. And of course, now I see that there are plans for like a 7-on-7 little thing to try to generate some interest in some activity for the players in the Des Moines public schools. I think that's either being held by the players or the coaches or something like that, which, I think is a great move as long as they kind of do some smart things as far as
Lindy, is there a volleyball player at Roosevelt that apparently is the bomb? And
there's a basketball player who's going to committed to Iowa State. I don't know anything about volleyball. I don't think they've got any players that are off the charts great.
Okay, but I thought I had read that some female big time athlete from Roosevelt had or was going to transfer because of all this hullabaloo.
Well, here's the thing, and there are over 300 public school districts in Iowa, and all of them but one are following the law. They're all going either hybrid or they're all in class. There's one that's not, and it's Des Moines, and that's why they're not playing. So, you can blame the governor. You can blame the Des Moines superintendent, but the fact is they're not in school, so they're not playing. And if they go back even just to 50% time, then they can go back and play.
And,
we've got a city here who had a heck of a storm. What's that?
I'm just saying, the fact of the matter is, if something doesn't get resolved, it's going to have a lasting impact on these high schools, regardless of. Especially now, if people are saying, "Hey, we're not getting what we need here. We've got to go somewhere else." And kind of what we touched on last week. The kids are the ones that are going to end up suffering from this. And you know what? And I know this is going to. I don't know. I hope I say this correctly, but the rich are going to get richer, and the poor are going to get poorer.
Yeah.
Because of this.
Absolutely right. Yeah.
And hopefully something gets done for the people that matter most, and that's the students, the kids. So.
Yeah.
The team out there that I think was going to be fairly decent out there this year was Hoover. I mean, they're a 3A school. They won their first game. I know it was against North, but I think pretty respectable 3A team this year.
I don't think Roosevelt was too bad either. I think they've got a real good coach in there that's doing a nice job too. So
they were going to be a pretty good 4A team.
Let's talk Iowa City Public Schools. Liberty West and City High will be able to play starting next week after missing 3 games. A great thing, obviously. Not being able to practice. What should we expect? I guess from 3 schools. I think City High is a pretty good team. Liberty's not bad, and I think West had the potential to be really good. Now they've had 3 weeks of not practicing or anything like that. What's realistic to expect from those three, teams when they come back.
I don't think they're going to miss too much of a beat. I think, especially West, I think they're going to be fine. They will get a full week of practice. I think they can probably go back to practice Saturday. So I imagine they will. I don't know if they'll practice Sunday, but let's say they practice Saturday and then they practice Monday through Thursday, they get 5 good days of practice in. I think they'll be fine. I'm sure the kids haven't been sitting on their butt doing nothing. I'm sure they've been, finding a place to get some workouts in, whether it's lifting or running or whatever. And they're going to be in shape. I think they'll be fine.
I think out of the 3 schools, the one that this hiatus might actually be helpful for is Liberty, because I think they suffered some injuries, through those first couple weeks. That assuming those guys are able to come back, that having 3 weeks off might just end up helping them in the long run, because they haven't had to play without those guys, and they're able to rest and heal, and and like Linder said, I'm sure there are plenty of voluntary workouts away from the schools that that these kids have been kind of going through or meeting to put themselves through during this time.
And they're only going to be 1 week behind Kennedy and Linmar.
Right. That's true.
Which school were you talking about there, KJ? Liberty, 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 Liberty.
Oh, God. You get that out of your system? Is that out of your system now?
Every time somebody just mentions the high school, it just pops into my head.
Do I do it one more time?
No, not at all.
Okay.
as you guys mentioned, Kennedy and Linmar are back after a couple of weeks off. Kennedy plays at Dubuque Hempstead tomorrow night, Friday night. We're taping this on Thursday. And Linmar plays Saturday again at Cedar Rapids Prairie. I believe that was just kind of maybe a gentleman's agreement to help Linmar get over the quarantine and maybe have an extra day of practice or something like that. But, again, what should we expect? I think Linmar's better than it's 0-2. What's Kennedy? 2-1 now?
1-1.
1-1. But again, 2 teams that I think have some potential, right?
Yeah.
The rest of the way, we'll have to see how the layoff has affected them, respectively. The rest of the Metro, I'm trying to think. Jefferson actually doesn't have a game this week. Couldn't find an opponent or didn't want one.
They should play Hawkeye.
Yeah, that would have been interesting. And Washington had to find another sub-opponent for the 3rd straight week?
Yeah.
Is that right? And the Warriors, Davenport Assumption on Saturday?
Yeah.
And Assumption's one of the best teams in 3A. So, that's kind of a rundown on the Metro, I guess, and the 4A teams in our area, unless I'm missing someone. Marion, go ahead.
Well, I was just going to say a couple tough matchups for Kennedy and Linmar to come off quarantine. Linder was the one that I think hit on it last week, that Hempstead's, maybe appearing to be one of the better teams in Eastern Iowa. And they beat Cedar Falls last week, I think. So here Kennedy 2 weeks off, and I know they tried like the Dickens to get somebody last Saturday to play them, and things kept kind of falling through for Kennedy. So, this is a tough one for them to come back from the break, and then Prairie. Geez, sometimes you need 2 full weeks to really focus on that offense and the smoke and mirrors that you've got to deal with, and that's a tough one. But maybe they've kind of had that in their sites, knowing Prairie was the first one out of the gate when they come back, and maybe they've been preparing for it for a while.
So we kidded amongst ourselves. Why the heck didn't Prairie and Kennedy just play again
Yeah, right. The home and home,
last week? Yeah, the home and home.
and especially the way the first game ended. I'm sure maybe both teams would want to do it again, but it
Yeah,
didn't come to
yeah.
fruition. And one last thing, and then I'll shut up for a little while.
Oh, you're good.
The Assumption Washington matchup. Are they going to break out the Wade King Trophy for that? Since he's been part of both programs at one time, so I'm sure there's some familiarity with the coaching staffs there, and I'm glad they were able to work that out because that's an interesting matchup Saturday.
Just looking at 3A, Xavier plays Oskaloosa tomorrow night down in Oskaloosa. Lindy, you're covering that one, right?
No,
Can you get to Oskaloosa from Cedar Rapids? I guess I don't even know.
not quickly.
Okay, fair enough.
Oskaloosa gave up 80 last week to Grinnell,
Woo.
so yeah.
So you're saying Nathan Ford's alma mater likes to run it up on people, is what you're saying?
I'm saying Nathan Ford's alma mater hosts Xavier next week, and that's going to be a heck of a ball game.
There you go. Other 3A games around here. Washington, Iowa has Fairfield, Decorah, and Charles City. Grinnell, aforementioned, and Benton Community. West Delaware against Waverly Shell Rock. Western Dubuque against Waterloo East. And Marion plays on Saturday, boys. Is that right?
Yeah.
Okay.
Saturday against Wahlert.
Wahlert. Okay. And that'll be at Linmar. We'll have more Metro games on Saturday than Friday, right?
Yeah, that's true.
Yeah.
Which is just a little bit bizarre. So, looking at 2A, kind of looking at the schedule here, Mid Prairie and Williamsburg. That could be an interesting game, don't you think?
I think so. Mid Prairie runs the ball really well. Williamsburg's obviously a really good team. I think that's one of the 2A games of the week in the state.
And Center Point Urbana, South Tama, Waukon and Independence. That's canceled. I apologize for that. Waukon didn't find another opponent, so they'll have the week off. Comanche and West Liberty, Anamosa, Liberty. Anamosa and Macokota, Tipton, Monticello. Let's see, Vinton, Schellsburg, and Solon. Old North Fayette Valley. That'll be interesting. Coach Lape going to face his old school. We haven't really talked much about Mount Vernon. Mount Vernon has LaPorte City Union, and the Mustangs are off to a very solid 4-0 start. Kind of under the radar type of team, or not necessarily, boys?
A little bit, yeah. We'll know a lot more about Mount Vernon at the end of next week. Highway 1 game is next week. I think it's at Solon this year, but Mount Vernon I imagine they'll take care of business against Union, and next week we'll try to break whatever it is, 16, 17-year losing streak against Solon.
That's pretty amazing, isn't it?
Yeah.
That many losses in a row from those two programs. Class 1A, Durant, Dyersville, Beckman. We've got Wilton and Cascade in the area here. Osage and Jessup. Man, that's got to be a haul, isn't it? Osage to Jessup. West Branch and Macokota Valley, and that's something that I wrote about. It's a pretty neat story. That's a game where both of their original opponents are in quarantine. So they've decided to play each other at Macokota Valley after a long discussion, and I won't ruin the story too much. West Branch will have only one home game this season, true home game at the Little Rose Bowl, and that was the season opener. It played another home game at Solon because the week that it rained so much. And Macokota Valley is honoring a pair of kids who would have been part of the senior class that passed away. One over the summer, and the other when she was in 8th grade, and they are going to be honorary homecoming king and queen. which is a very, very nice touch from the senior class in Maquoketa Valley. And it's going to be a special ceremony for that. And, West Branch agreed to go down there because of that, or up there because of that. So pretty neat little story all the way around.
Yeah.
And what do we got? Sigourney Keota remains unbeaten, one of the top teams around here, and the Savage Cobras have peaked. So let's look at Class A schedule. Albert East Buchanan, the old Tri Rivers matchup there. North Cedar and Highland. And then Lisbon and Iowa City, Regina. Should we talk a little bit about that one? One of us is covering that. I can't remember who. KJ?
I will be down at Regina for the Lisbon-Regina game.
Top
10 matchup in Class A.
Yep.
So, yeah. First off, one thing we haven't touched on, what about the Lisbon-West Liberty situation last week? JJ, I think you wrote about that. Talk about kind of adjusting on the fly a little bit for both of those schools with Lisbon and West Liberty, and kind of neat that they worked something out.
Yeah, I think both schools, if I remember the story here properly, both schools had opponents cancel on them at the very last second, like 1 o'clock, 1:30 on Friday afternoon. So both ADs kind of just called around, seeing if there was any chance that maybe they could play even Saturday. They contacted each other. They decided they were going to go play at West Liberty, and they were going to do it in about 3.5 to 4 hours. Just one of those perfect storm type of things that came together at the very last second. And, West Liberty coach said, I had some parents that took off work and came down and lined the field for us and helped get everything ready. And, coaches got on huddle and tried to figure out just exactly what their two opponents were all about and we're going to do. And, so they played a game and it turned out to be a really good one too. West Liberty won 14-12. So if that doesn't describe the 2020 COVID season, I don't know what does, right?
I know, right? So now Lisbon's going to head down to Regina, and like I said, top 10 matchup in Class A. Probably maybe kind of strength on strength, right, Lindy? Lisbon's defense and Regina's offense, especially passing.
Yeah.
With Cook and Wick. Remember the injury that Wick had at the end of last year? I think JJ,
you're playoffs, right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
And now look at, he's been able to bounce back, which is great. Because I think it was a pretty serious, was it hip or knee or hip?
I think it was a hip, yeah.
Hip. Because I just happened to be looking through our archives and saw pictures of him on a stretcher from that game and people tending to him. And then to see now that, he's one of the state leaders in receptions and yards and touchdown passes. So Lisbon will have its hands full trying to contain that offense, and we'll see which of the two strengths comes out on top on Friday. At Regina, by the way.
From what I understand, Lisbon's top running back Max Cole has a broken leg suffered last week. So that's huge loss for the Lions. They're going to have to find somebody to step up offensively, especially in a game where I'm sure the Lions know they're going to have to score at least 2-3 touchdowns.
Well, it puts that makes the margin for error on the defensive side even thinner now for Lisbon.
Look at the rest of the Class A schedule around here. Belle Plaine, North Mahaska, Clayton Ridge, Postville, Linville, Sully, and North Tame. I believe that's canceled, right? Isn't Linville, Sully under quarantine right now?
Yes.
North Tame was still looking for an opponent.
Okay. Edco and North Lynn, and then what should be a really interesting game, South Winneshiek and Wapsie Valley. At Wapsie Valley, that's again 2 top 10 teams. is it 4 and 5, Lindy? Is that we have them ranked 4th and 5th? Wapsie and Southwind.
I think so. 4 and 5, 5 and 6, somewhere in there.
But yeah, that should be a really good game. Both teams have really good athletes, right?
Yeah. Yep, two really good teams.
And let's go 8-player. Lindy, what'd you think of the 8-player game you had?
Thought there were a lot of points.
Springville
65-48. And that's,
Yeah.
That's not uncommon and that's not ungodly high scoring, but oh boy. I think there were 58 points scored in the second quarter, and it just makes for a long box score. And a long night.
And Springville, for a reward for losing its first game, gets to play Don Bosco this week. So,
yeah.
Good luck to the Orioles there. Other games: West Central, Elkader Central, HLV, Colonesco, Turkey Valley, Clarksville has been canceled. Clarksville is playing JV only the rest of the way. Midland Easton Valley, Twin Cedars, and English Valleys. Iowa Valley BGM. And kind of scrolling through here, Waco Tri-County. We mentioned Tri-County got a win for the first time in at least a couple of years, right? Last week. So congratulations to the
They didn't play last year. I'm not sure they won a game the year before that. I don't think they did.
What else you want to talk about, boys? What's on your mind? Not much, huh?
It's just been, it's been hectic trying to keep up with everybody who's playing, who's not, who's looking for a new dance partner at 3:00 on Friday night or Friday afternoon. And it's, but I'd say there's probably been more teams that have been able to play than we thought. I mean, a lot of teams haven't been impacted much or at all, but I don't know. It's just the way it's been this year and the way it's going to continue through the playoffs. I don't know. I don't know how many teams are going to get through it, but we'll see.
I talked to a TV guy actually from the Twin Cities. I don't know how he got my contact information, but Minnesota voted this past week to conduct a football season that's going to start here, I think next week or the week after that, something like that. And he just
so what you're saying is they're going to have snow in week 3 up there.
Yeah, they will. Yeah, they probably got snow up there right now, right? So it's Minnesota. But he just wanted some feedback on what I thought about how things had worked here, and I just said I think it's worked out all right so far, and we have people that are bound and determined to give kids opportunities here, and so far they're getting them. Is that accurate?
Yeah,
I think so. I thought it was funny. I got to listen to a coach address his team after a game and discuss some of the stuff. And it's a coach that we all know very well. It was almost comical in the stance that, what he was sharing. I think he made reference to Rule 47 or something like that. So they have gone through these large, these protocols and come up. He was talking to the kids about, I don't care if your parents are mad at me, but stay away from everybody. He goes, you tell them to give me a call. I'll handle it, but don't be stupid. It's one of the things that, that was pretty much being told to the kids that, hey, stay away. You've got everybody else to think about, during this. So it was almost funny that they have gone through all these steps to ensure kids are being as safe as possible for this. And I don't know about you guys. Do you almost feel there's a little bit of a different intensity with this season, that it isn't as life or death, or isn't, and maybe that's a bad analogy, but it isn't quite as high strung as previous seasons, just
Yeah.
because I think coaches and players understand it's like, okay, we're gonna make the most of the time we have right now, because yeah, we might be flying high Friday after a win, but come Monday we could find out
Done.
we're on the shelf,
Yeah.
and you know maybe
I
when
think
the
you're totally right. I think everybody's just happy to be playing. I imagine things will probably revert a little bit once we get to playoff time. But and I,
sure,
I don't know if I said this last week, but I think the sense of urgency with everybody in the playoffs isn't as high. I think that's
right,
part of it. But I think people are just happy to be playing, and you
Live
know,
in the moment, right?
it,
You have
yeah,
to live in the
and
moment.
coaches are saying yeah, and I think everybody's just, I think that everybody's just glad to participate and have something to do.
mhm.
All right, I'm going to ask you guys, and this is probably an unfair question, but what's going to happen with winter sports? Any ideas? Any
Well,
thoughts?
I'll jump in first here. Um, I have been talking to some coaches, off the record, of course. So maybe I shouldn't share it. I don't know. Screw it. I'm going to anyway. I believe there was a wrestling committee meeting, whatever the term for that is, with the association earlier this week. Um, I believe the WAMAT coaches met last week, looking at a tweet from Mount Vernon Wrestling's account. It looks like they are backing a full regular season, starting on time for wrestling. Um, I have heard from a couple coaches that there might be some different protocols. It sounds like weigh-ins are going to be done in the gym instead of a locker room, so that they can spread things out. I don't know if you guys are aware. A lot of times, uh, weigh-ins at the college level for like the NCAA tournament, they're done on the arena floor. So I think high schools will have something similar to where it's done in the gymnasium, so teams can spread out. Kids will be weighing in singlets, because they'll be out in the open like that, as well. I think uh, they have advised schools with small wrestling rooms to split practices, so you have fewer bodies in there at one time. Um, and then I believe some of the protocols like masks and things like that are going to, and attendance and everything. It's going to be up to schools and coaches on how they apply that, and what their rules are going to be. But for a long answer here, um, it sounds like the association is planning on moving forward uh, on the same timeline as previous seasons.
Lindy, as far as basketball goes, we had, and I think we had some AAU wrestling tournaments, right? That have gone on this summer, KJ, or not necessarily? Because I know we had some basketball events at the AAU level that
Uh,
went on.
as far as the USA Wrestling events in the summer, like the Fargo Nationals and stuff like that, those were all wiped out.
Okay.
Um, I'm sure there are probably some tournaments that have popped up here or there. I know there have been smaller competitions like little duels, beat the streets, rumble on the rooftop, are some kind of freestyle events that have gone on. Um, Wrestling Underground, I think, had one, but those are more post collegiate events. But I wouldn't doubt that there's been tournaments somewhere.
But I know there's been like the AAU circuit kind of got going on basketball a little bit here over this late summer. So And, haven't heard any bad things, really bad things. So maybe that's a positive sign for hoops moving forward here in the winter. But, we're all living day to day right now, and let's not worry about that, I guess, right now. So schedules for tomorrow night, guys. Let everybody know where you're going to be and Twitter handle and all that fun stuff.
Well, I'm going to be at Regina for that game between the Regals and Lisbon. You follow me at K.J. Pilcher. From that one. And then on Saturday, I'll have Assumption against Cedar Rapids, Washington at Kingston Stadium Saturday afternoon as well.
Lindy?
I will be at Williamsburg. I'll be at Williamsburg for Class 2A game with between the Raiders and Mid Prairie. And for what it's worth, Saturday I'll be at the Mount Vernon Fall Classic volleyball tournament on Saturday.
That's at JT Linder. At JEJE66. I'm back in the ball game finally after a couple weeks in quarantine. We'll have Dubuque Hempstead and Kennedy tomorrow night. And then Saturday, Prairie and Linn-Mar, you're looking at about, I think, a 3:15 kick. So, follow us at thegazette.com. We have a lot of games on tap tomorrow night that we'll be at and giving full reports. Anything anybody wants to add before we sign off here? I'm disappointed we didn't get to see Hercules. So
I know he bailed on me. Dog's best friend, my ass.
Next week. We'll get him on next week.
We'll have him next week for sure.
Absolutely. All right, guys. Thanks very much. Thank you, Nathan Ford, as always. Enjoy the games and stay safe, everybody.